Thank you everyone for joining. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you very much. I'm here today to showcase you particularly our strategy builder and the possibilities with it, what you can build, what you can achieve, and how different we are compared to a few of the other platforms, how we do it. I will get a little bit into technical stuff, but not too much. I'll try to keep it a little bit casual as possible. If you have technical questions and want to get a more in-detail explanation, feel free to ask after the presentation. And when we get the discussion going, I'm here to answer all your questions regarding the technical side of the project and everything besides it. So let's get started. What is the strategy builder? The strategy builder is a tool to create exactly your experience exactly the way you want it. When I say we are a little bit different compared to other platforms and other protocols, I bet most of you know how auto-compounders work and how to interact with DeFi tools. The problem is often that everything is scattered all over the place. It's difficult to keep track of everything. And then when it comes to services like auto-compounders, most of the time, these services are limited when it comes to flexibility. It's basically use it as it's presented to you, or you have no other choice. And at least from my experience, it can get quite difficult to keep track of everything. It's a tedious task to do everything manually, to keep track of everything manually. So this is where Weave comes in, and where we want to ease the people's daily work. So we take care of everything is what we want to do. We want to have a solid experience for you, just a single place where you go for your DeFi place, create a strategy as you want it, your DeFi experience to be, and then you're good to go. And I think the best way to describe it is by actually showing you it. So this is the strategy builder. This is the entry point for you creating your strategy. What you see here as contract labeled here is what the entry point will be. So let us create in the first beginning a really simple strategy where we, for example, want to farm just some stable coins because we don't want to put our initial funds at risk. So we drag and drop the entry from here and say this is how it gets registered. It's easy as it gets with drag and drop. I will get into more detail. I just want to set something up and then explain to you what the steps in between mean, what the lines mean. So don't worry, I'll come to everything. We will create more complex strategies. So assuming you don't want to put your initial funds at risk and want to farm in stable coins, which has, as I guess you all know, no danger to a permanent loss, and which might be one of the biggest loss factors when it comes to LP farming. Hence why the APR isn't that great. There are definitely projects which provide higher APR. For example, like the native farm from Knight, where you input the VBNB, you farm via the VBNB and Knight LP. And how you add this part is you start dragging the entry you want to put, hold it over the plus sign, drop it, and this is how easy it gets. So let me save it, and I'm gonna explain what's happening here in a really simple way. We have our entry point, and you created your first entry on that one. USDT, BUSD pair, a stable pair, the safest thing you can get on LP farming. This means that 100% of your deposited funds gets transferred into this pair, and the yield which you get out of the USDT BUSD gets moved into higher return LP farm. And so basically your initial investment is not at risk, but you can still try and farm, or what means try, you can still farm higher returns on a different farm besides it. This is the equivalent of you going into USDT BUSD farm yourself, harvest your rewards. This right now is every 7 days, and move it to the BNB night. What you need to do if you do it manually is you need to make sure that you have the correct tokens and the correct amount to create liquidity. Then if you're getting here, for example, it's a baby farm, you're getting baby as reward. You need to convert that baby into BNB and night, create liquidity, then deposit it. It's a lot of steps you need to do if you do it manually. And it's on a small scale, this might not be a problem. But the beauty of this is we are taking care of everything in the back. I will show you the deposit process in a minute to the farms. But what you just need to know is that we are taking care of everything. You don't need to worry about creating LP, about depositing the right stuff. This is all done by our platform. This here is a rather simple example, and not that exciting. We can start by creating something more complex. So assuming you want to farm with your investment in multiple farms and want to create a really complex strategy and with a lot of things, with a lot of farms. So for example, you want to farm in the USD BNB strategy. You also want to farm the ETH USDT. You also want farm in the dog department. You also want to farm ADA USDT. And as you can see, you can create a complex structure already on the first level. For example, what does this mean? This means that if you deposit your token into the contract which gets created, the funds get split up and deposited equally. So 25% goes into USDT BNB pair, 25% goes in this pair, 25% goes in this pair, 25% goes in this pair. Right now, the split is equal. We will provide the possibility in the future to adjust and fine tune what you create and adjust it on the fly. What you can update later on are the specific parts, like the compounding frequency, like the compounding amount, the split in between. You won't be able to change farms completely and upgrade your strategy. This is to multiple reasons. One is that we want to keep passive users safe who follow you. And we want to have this site as secure and as safe for our passive users. But this doesn't end here. So we can create the next step. For example, let's assume I want to keep on farming everything what I get out. And I don't want to lose my rewards, but I don't want to put them at risk in permanent loss, but I still want to continue farm in, let's say again, in a stable coin. So we have the USDT BUSD and we can just move it over and make it so that all the rewards coming out of this farm, this farm, this farm, and this farm gets automatically put into USDT BUSD. And at no point are your rewards just sitting around if you don't want to. There is no limit to the complexity the strategy builder can create. You can get on as many levels as you want in the first. You can have as many follow-ups as you want on the second. So if you want to continue here, it's just dragging and dropping. And we are taking care on the background that the strategy works exactly like you created it. let's clear that real quick. So assuming your strategy doesn't need to get complex, but you want to protect your deposits anyway, and you want to keep it safe. For example, you are farming, let's take an example, you're farming night tokens. And this is what you are happy with. You don't actually want a complex strategy, you just want to farm, but what you want, for example, is auto compounding, where our platform comes in handy and is different to the other platforms and auto compounders, is that we give you the freedom of creating a strategy as you like and auto compound as you like. So for example, let's say I want 50% of the rewards getting out of there be compounded back into BNB Night Farm. And then I want the remaining 50% not to be put to risk, but swapped to BUSD, and have this as my finishing block, just so that the night tokens I get out of it don't lose in value, or I just not a fan of fluctuating price. Then this, for example, is a really simple way to protect your assets and to still profit from compounding. We can get even more. Let's just, for example, getting into 1 inch. And what we are doing here right now is that we are compounding 50% of our initial investment here back to in BNB Night. And the remaining 50% gets equally distributed. 25% gets swapped into BUSD, keeping my investment safe. 25% gets on moved to 1 inch USDT. What if I don't want any of the yield rewards out there, but I believe that this farm APR will stay strong all the time, and this is where I want to invest long term? Well, I can just compound everything and said, I want 100% of my returns being compounded in this particular farm. All the compounding, the amount of compounding, the frequency, you will be able to adjust later on. So if you've created a strategy and passive users are following it, you will be able to adjust as soon as you realize, okay, one farm might have dropped into APR. I don't want to put that much into it. The other seems way more juicy. Then you can change these numbers on the fly. And these numbers will be represented also for all passive users following you. What we intend to do in the next step is also providing you the opportunity as a pro user to communicate with your passive followers. This is first of all to explain your strategy, be more communicative about it, but also to keep users up to date. So I don't think that just the highest APR strategy will get the most followers, but I think that users also want communication and want to have a feeling that their pro user they're following is actually active, that he's communicating with the community and that he's passing on his knowledge, and they at least understand to some degree what the goal of the strategy is. Should it be more stable? Why a change has happened? So this is what our next step in the platform will be, besides a few others. You communicate with your followers. This communication won't go in both ways. So to just explain you, users will be able to simply interact with your comments by liking it, but in no way will users bug our pro users with questions. There are other places to get in touch or discuss it. But don't feel like you will get 1,000 of spam messages. There will be no users pointing and posting scam links onto your web page. We try to make it as a safe and secure space, not only for our passive users, but also for our pro users. So you don't feel like besides setting up your strategy, you need to moderate stuff. This is still rather a simple strategy. So what if I want to I want to have 3 different entries in the beginning, all around the same APR, but maybe where the risk diverges a little bit, because either I'm using stable coins or I'm believing that the APR will stable, but still I want to be safe. I want this, for example, these are the 3, 4, 5 tokens I don't mind holding in an LP pair where I believe they will keep their value, but I still want to diversify my portfolio a little bit. As I said, no problem in creating this strategy. But what if I want to compound on each single step of that one? Well, it's as simple as it gets. It's just setting up the compound. So for example, I want to compound 50% on each single of this strategy. 50%, 50%, excuse me, 50%. What this means is our backend does all the necessary steps. We harvest your returns. We create the required liquidity pair out of your returns. We deposit it back into the farm. And then it's the same principle. You want 50% of the remaining from Mbox and USDT to continue on working. And let's say, well, Night Swap is a nice project. I believe in it. I want to support the initial liquidity, and the APR looks juicy. Same here. We can add it here. But I want, for example, the other two having some stable coins. Some stablecoin farms. So we can do the same. And we can even say, okay, this one, for example, gets the stablecoin farms from NightSwap. This one gets from BabySwap, because here I want to also diversify a little bit when it comes to the returns based on the farms. As I guess most of you know, BabySwap returns rewards in Baby, NightSwap returns rewards in Night. So if you want to be safe, this is something what you can do. You can choose different protocols and different farms from different protocols, interact with them as much as you like. There is no limitation. The only limitation which there is right now is that the strategy is right now, so what you see here is all on Binance BNB Smart Chain. In the future, what we are currently working on is providing our users cross-chain strategies. I think this is a big opportunity in DeFi. For example, farming in a really stable yet high APR protocol, for example, on BNBchain, and still getting high returns from a new chain. Then this is exactly what will be for you. You can create the stable part on the chain, on BNBchain, create the more high returns on Fantom, and say, but I want everything out in DAI to be as stable as possible. So our goal is, in the end, to provide as much flexibility, as much possibilities for the user as there is. This is why I'm saying, and I'm also internally with my dev team pushing the cross-chain interaction as much as I can. This will definitely be the biggest step of the Weave platform when it comes to the strategy builder. But in the meantime, let's stick to what we have here. So let's say I also want BUSD here. So this, as you can see, becomes already more complicated. I try to explain what everything does right now and what you see here. Here is a split between 3 farms in the beginning, the Baby BNB, Mbox USDT, and USDT STG. If you when you deposit your funds to the contract you create, everything gets split up equally. We create the LP for the first farm, the second farm, the third farm. We deposit it to the LP, to the farm. After 7 days, the rewards get harvested. 50% of BNB, of this first farm, gets compounded. So this is the auto compound part. But you can adjust it, as I said, as you like. There is no force to compound 100%. It's not the kind you get what you want. No, you build what you want is what we are doing. The other 50% goes to the next farm. You're farming stable coins and keeping your investments safe. But then you want also on this farm to have not baby token, but to keep your rewards safe as also safe. So you create the swap entry with BUSD, and all the returns dropping out there will be put into your contract as BUSD. Here, for example, you say, okay, but I like the night token and I think this will go up in value. So I'd rather hold the night token. Then you just don't create a swap entry, but keep it that way, and all yield will be collected after 7 days and move to your contract. So you are free to use the platform as you like. I can't overcome this sentence, but this is our main goal. This is what we want to do. We want to give you as much flexibility and opportunity as you like. What my initial goal, or what I initially my running or my pain point is that I need to visit so many platforms, so many protocols to keep track of my investment, to keep everything in one place. I keep track of all the adjustments and everything what I want to do. So I bet most of you are owning an Excel sheet where you put in everything what you have and what you plan to do and how everything is going. This is what we want to fix, and we want to create a really smooth experience for our users. The same goes also on the other chains. So for example, let me switch to Fantom. And here on Fantom, we can do the exact same thing, as we want to have some stable. So as you can see, juicy rewards on stable. Putting in the USDC DAI, and we want to have the rewards, for example, in a rather high native Spirit Swarm farm. We do the exact same thing. It doesn't matter what chain is under the hood. We are able to create contracts for all chains we support, and the usability part is the same on all the different chains. And imagine how this can go if you can combine the chains together. I think this is what will blow people's mind in the next step, definitely. Providing seamless interaction, not only between all the platforms on one chain and you don't need to keep track of it, but rather provide interaction on all the different chains, and we've been your single entry point in everything. And it doesn't stop on earning just by the yield you're getting. If you create a nice strategy and want to share it with users, then you're also profiting from the fees from the passive users following you. So it's not only just the yield you get from your strategy, but it's also the yield you get from all the passive users you manage to build up as a followship. And this is the interaction, and the big picture is what we are working towards. I'll come back to answers in a minute, and we'll answer everything. Don't worry. So let's say I admitted I'm more familiar with the BNBchain, and I'll just stick to the BNBchain for as examples for now. But just for this example, again, you are free to use whatever you like. We are currently also working on multiple parts of the platform, and we are working on multiple integrations. What the next step, what we will bring on the BNB Smart Chain is also Channels Finance, which is a borrow and lending protocol. So the next, what you will be able to do is providing your yield you get from a farm as collateral, borrow against your collateral, and farm with the borrowed amount. The possibilities when combining protocols are really, really amazing and high. I think that most of the users will realize that when they start to putting things together and can also visualize how the parts in between interact. I think this is also quite a big help just to be able to have this visual feedback and see everything nicely lined up for you. So let's say I'm a rather conservative investor and I want a USDT BUSD pair just to protect my funds. I don't want to get it quite volatile, but then I really like the Night token, and this is one of the highest APR for the Night token for the rewards there. And still, I don't know how the APR will go in between the cycles. People might jump into the BNB Night farm, so the APR drops there. So I just want to cover and keep my investment, my yield and my return, which I get out, as diverse as possible while still trying to earn a high amount. So, but maybe I don't want to have 100% in Night. What if I want just 30% of my earnings? And maybe I think I'm a really conservative guy. So I will just say 70% goes to auto compound, and the remaining 30% of the yield gets moved into BNB Night and Night BUSD, and just let it farm it safely. This is a long-term strategy I'm going for here. So let's say my strategy is called long-term stable. I save the strategy, and as you can see, this is the entry point. It moves to the next part. It compounds, goes to the Night BUSD, Night BNB, and the exit point are the contracts. Now what happens here if I click the deploy button? Well, when I saved the strategy, a contract got created on the back end, which exactly suits my needs, what I want to do. Each strategy is a smart contract on its own. I will get into detail a little bit what that means. And this contract is created dynamically on our backend. We have as little overhead as possible. We try to keep the contract deployment as cheap as possible while still being safe. We will have audits. Also, just because our contract is dynamically created, people tend to ask, well, how do you get audited? How can you make sure it's safe? Our contract gets created from, you can imagine it as some multiple Lego blocks. And we have standardized internally the interaction between this Lego blocks. So we can build exactly the kind of thing you want. You want to build a Millennium Falcon out of the Lego blocks, you can do it. And you can still audit everything of the single blocks in between. So we can assure that our users get the maximum security, that audits can be done as the platform continues to grow, and that the interaction is safe as possible. So a contract got created on the back end. I can hit deploy. And now you can see, I don't know, I think my MetaMask isn't showing, but I am deploying a strategy. Transaction got confirmed, deployed successfully. And we can see that a contract got created. This is the contract address. You are the owner of the contract. This is quite important. We as a platform don't have even the control to interfere with your funds. This is, let me just a small detour on why we chose the infrastructure as we did it with the individual smart contracts. One of the biggest things is security. So you have functionalities on the contract side, which will be then also approved by the auditors that it will be working in the same way. I think you guys seen our first audit and the results have been amazing. One of the biggest main concerns is always security when it comes to our smart contracts. We are aware of the dangers in crypto and the danger of poorly built smart contracts, exploits. So really our first approach is stability, security. This is what we're looking for. So functionalities for actually interacting with your money, like withdrawing, depositing, emergency withdrawal. Basically, when from outside something moves in or something from the inside moves out, can only be triggered by you, the smart contract owner. We as a platform just don't have the ability hard-coded to interfere with your funds. The only thing we can do is make sure that the parts in between work correctly. We can just execute the strategy as you like it. There is no possibility for us to rug pull you. It's nice to trust someone, but best or even better than trust is code. And code means, well, code is law. And code is law mean if we can't do it, there is no way. The contract is not upgradable. We can't put another version of it on top and interact with your funds. At no point there will be possibility for us to somehow drain your funds, remove your funds. It will only be your only responsibility and your money only. Point. Nothing more to discuss. The second part why we chose this structure is that protocols tend to build towards real users. They don't build towards platforms. They don't build towards platforms interacting with them, like auto-compounders. So, for example, let's assume we would have like a big pooled farm, and the farm we are interacting with is changing some aspects of it. And somehow auto-compounders sometimes work is that to maximize on gas efficiency, for example, everything gets withdrawn, or the interaction is with all the funds deposited. There comes then the downside that if, for example, a protocol changes its structure, adding fees or some other underlying changes, most of the time people suffer from it, or that the smart contracts just needs to get upgraded heavily to reflect on the change the platform, the underlying platform did. How we are doing it is basically we are mimicking a single user. The contract does the same interaction as a user would do. So since a platform doesn't want to screw their own people over, we won't be ever affected by these kind of changes. This is to keep users safe as long as possible, and that the strategy they created can just go on. No interference needed, no adjustment needed. Secure and safe are the key 2 points why we decided for this kind of structure. So we deployed a contract. Where do we can see our deployed contract? Well, in the strategy overview, we can go on the deployed contract and we see we have the long-term stable. This is our contract, how we created it. Now, how I want to fund it. It's easy as going to deposit. What you see here is we have a list of whitelisted tokens to keep our users as safe as possible, and we will update this list. And because this list is so small, it's not the list which, this is not the whole list, but the only list this account has a balance of. So we don't show you what you can't interact with. We want to keep it as simple as possible. Let's say I want to fund the contract with BUSD. I hit approve, and I approve the created contract by me. This is so, approval is always needed because the contract needs to interact with your funds. There is no, or there are limitations, but there is no good way of doing it the other way. We don't want you to send some tokens. We don't want you to do manually anything. We just want simple contract interactions. And let's say I want to deposit 100 BUSD into the newly created contract. Easy. 100. I click confirm on my MetaMask window, which unfortunately you can't see, but I will show you the transaction in a second. We are waiting until the transaction is done. And as you can see, our funds got deposited. There is $99.9 as a total value locked in our contract right now. And as you can see, we have an entrance fee of 0.1%. So this is what got moved out for. 10 cents is to cover initial gas cost. And this is something we will keep track. We will keep track of all our fees, especially the entrance fee and the controller fee, which is mostly there to just for the interaction with the platform. And we want to keep it sustainable. It's, yeah, sorry for the detour here. $99.9 in the contract. So what happens now? Our backend gets notified that a deposit has been made to this specific contract. Then we see how much got deposited. We see the tokens. We keep track of everything. We have track of we keep track of deposited tokens, for example, on the contract side, but also in our backend. We have our backend is a centralized system, but we try to provide as much information on the blockchain side also, and to be as transparent as possible when it comes to these things. So what will happen is that our backend picks up on the event, creates the USDT-BUSD pair. In this example, it only needs to create from 50% because the other 50% are BUSD we provided. So we already have half of the required tokens for the liquidity pair. And our backend will then swap half of the BUSD in this case, create the LP token, deposit the LP token into this farm. And this is it. This is literally it. A user don't need to have to provide the LP token. They don't need to look up what they need to do. We take care of slippage. We take care of everything what a user normally would do on their side. And this is where also our backend comes in strong, and where it has a lot of potential. And we are making sure, again, not only our contracts, but also our backend is as safe as possible. Yeah, and we are taking care of everything for you. We want this to be a really smooth and simple experience for you. No hassle, no keeping track of what tokens you need to create. Just deposit whatever you have in your wallet. We are taking care of the rest for you, and everything will continue to go on smoothly from that point. Is there, this is my introduction to the strategy builder and building parts of it. Are there any questions to the strategy builder itself? Do I, before we move over to more general questions, is there something which I should showcase you and explain you on the strategy builder side, which maybe have not become that clear? Is this a no? Okay. Seems like no one has questions for the strategy builder. I would just say start playing around. What I might not have shown is I just drag a few parts over. If you're not happy with what you created, click delete, completely reset. You can adjust while building your strategy. You can just also delete particular nodes. This might have been a little bit slow, so let me.
Andreas, we've got some questions in the chat.
Yes, yeah. I'm gonna move over to it when I'm just wanted to say that you can start over fresh, just play around with it and see what you can create from it. Okay, so let me start from the top and look at the chat. CryptoBull, how does the gas fees work when it compounds and when it moves from the farm to another if the strategy has over 10 moving parts? We are making sure that we are not burning your yield. So even though you set up how you want to compound your strategy and how you want to be moved, our backend executes the transaction only if there is enough yield in the particular farm to cover the performance fee and the protocol fee and to have yield on top. So if there is not enough to cover, we won't burn your yield and you get zero out of it. We are making sure all the time that you get return, which needs to be compounded, and not just brainlessly burn through everything just because you, for example, set up, I want to compound it daily. But in the end, the returns are so low that, let's assume an interaction is 22 cents. Your return is 22 cents. We don't compound zero and take the fees out of that because that just wouldn't make sense. So our backend is smart enough to understand when to compound and make sure that you're getting profit out of it without burning your rewards. Did I answer your question correctly or to your liking, CryptoBull? I hope so. I just moved to, yes, exactly. The yields, our fees are on the rewards. Beside the entrance fee is on the funds moving in. Let me just real quick move to our white paper. To the fee parts, you should be able to see it. So as you see, there is a 0.1% entrance fee, a controller fee, and a maximum performance fee of 4%. Why do we say maximum entrance fee? Because you're able to reduce the fees, first of all, based on the TVL locked in your contract, because we, of course, want to encourage users to bring as much funds as possible into us. And also by staking Weave token in Weave single staking or LP. This is because we also want to value that you invest in the protocol itself. And part of the performance fee, I don't know how many of you read the white paper, I hope all of you. Parts of the performance fee collected by the platform gets redistributed back to our single staking and LP staking users. So if you have single staking, then you get part of the performance fee. If you get single staking and LP or just LP, you will also benefit from the performance fee of what the platform generates. Let me just from the top, did I answer it correct? Did I answer it to your liking, CryptoBull, or is there something left on your question before I move to the next one? Perfect. Then I'll come back to Vincent. I'll go through every question. Don't worry, I won't miss you. Vincent, once a contract is deployed, we make a change. Does it require a brand new contract or just modify the current deployed? I hope, or you are talking about the adjustments like compounding and the frequency, the parts in between, how much is moved. This is taken care by our backend. And we save this side also on our backend. So if you want to adjust your contract, no new contract deployment is needed. What is in the contract is all the relevant parts to interact with the platforms you build your contract on top, and only these parts. But there is no need for you to deploy a new contract when you just want to make a change. For example, you don't want to compound 50% anymore, but just 20%. This does not require a transaction. This is just set to our backend. Our backend gets notified that you made a change, and all future interactions with the strategy and your contract are then done on your newly set configuration. So don't worry, you won't need to create new contracts each time you modify I call it fine tuning. So not every time you do some fine tuning, you don't need to deploy a new contract. Do you have a follow-up question on that, Vincent? Perfect, great. Let me continue. How dynamic are the LPs, pools, APR figures? Are you manually making these strategies, or is this automating on the back end? By how dynamic are the LP pools, IPR figures? I think your question, Ben, is how up to date they are, I believe is what you're asking, right?
That's right.
Okay. Right now, they are generated on a weekly basis. So right now, they might differ a little bit from the parts if you go, for example, to Spirit Swap, you might see a different APR right now there. We are currently working on making it real time and to provide as much real-time information as possible. Grabbing these large of amounts and keeping them up to date, especially against the chain. And for example, if no graph is provided and anything, can become a little bit tricky. And we want to make sure that this stuff is working properly. We don't want you to have no information when we couldn't get the correct amount. So right now we are working on having it as real-time information, but in the meantime, what you see is basically created by us on a slower basis. So right now it's not completely as real-time as it will be in the near future. Then are you manually making this strategy, or is it automating on the back end? It is automated on the back end. So as I said, you can think about Lego blocks, and our back end creates the strategy and the parts required when a user saves a contract. This is, well, we just can't think how users will in the end create their strategy. The possibilities are, I think, quite insane and high, and there is just no way for us to anticipate what platforms will be created and will be used, what protocols will be used. And the problem with creating a strategy by hand is, well, first of all, what if the strategy doesn't get used the way we created it? And the second of all is, what if the strategy has some kind of overhead? I don't know how familiar you are with the Ethereum virtual machine and EVM chain in general, but a good rule of thumb is every line costs gas. So if you can keep your contract as small as possible and just do what you need it to do, the lower is the transaction cost. And this, in the end, benefits the user. So the strategies are created automatically is the short answer to this. Follow-up question?
No, all good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Zacharias, I'll come back to you in a second. Yes, I come. let me tackle Jeff first. Let me see if I got once. Let me see if I got it round. So the money is in weave and the strategy is built. The process of creating the LP token etc starts automatically. You don't need to press starts. When a strategy, when funds gets deployed to a strategy, an event on the blockchain is emitted and our backend interacts with it directly. There is no need for you to press anything. Everything is done automatically. The only interaction required by you is just depositing the funds. We are taking care of the rest. No need to press an extra button or anything. On the top, what I missed from Freddy is how do you get the drop-down menu for all the coins when I want to say, let's go lower risk and 50% into just BUSD. What do you exactly mean by that, Freddy?
Andreas, I'll soon speak. It's easier. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Remember when you went through to build the strategy? So obviously, let's say you compound 50% that one, compound 50%, and then obviously the profit goes into a stable coin on at the end.
Yeah.
You press something and there was a drop-down menu where you see all the coins. Can you just go through that I can just see, because I played around in mine and I couldn't find that. You understand what I mean? So at the end on the right-hand side, you say, listen, split that, but to be safe, to keep my funds safe, I want to put it in BUSD at the end of my contract. So that dropped, so you press something and there was a drop-down menu where you could see all the different coins. Was it on that one?
This was the swap entry.
No, that's the swap one, but you there on that, yes. How did you do that? Oh, there's the drop-down menu on it. Sorry, I see that little drop-down.
Yes, we will continue working on fine-tuning our UI and make it, all your feedback, if you have any feedback, feel free to jump on our Discord or provide feedback on Telegram. I encourage users also to hop on our Discord if you're not there already. On Discord is a little bit more easier to track because we have multiple channels there. But if you have feedback for us, I greatly appreciate any kind of feedback our team gets. Don't get me wrong. So if you have any kind where you say, this would be a big improvement for you, go for it. Tell us. We are here to build for you. It's not that we are building for ourselves. We want to make it as good as possible for our users and not for our platform. Yes, Scoots, just hopping into the part. Everything what I have done has been on app Financial. So this is no testnet. This is exactly what you've seen has been happening on the chain. And I can show you that all the interactions, like my deposit was on BSC scan. You see, this is BSC scan. This is the real chain. Everything is completely on chain. You can start right now what I have done. This is, you could have followed me and mimicking me, but yeah, play around, make sure this is how you want it to go, and then you can deploy and deposit. So, that's nice. Will you have in the future that you can stop a part of a strategy if the yield falls to 0% or to a percent that you can set and have that strategy stop or deleted? Yes, and this is just simply by us. So a threshold for is something what we have planned. You're talking about the threshold and not only dropping to 0. And if you set it up, then basically this farm just gets ignored. So even when remove liquidity, we can split up the liquidity on our back end swap into desired tokens for the next liquidity part, create new liquidity. How our backend is already smart enough if a farm drops to 0% because the emission has stopped on that or something like this. Everything from the LP pair inside it, because it doesn't generate any yield anymore, gets moved out of it. And we basically move it to the next level and ignore that specific part which doesn't give you any return anymore. But the threshold part is something which we have on our backlog. Perfect. Zachariah, I don't want you had your hands up. Do you have a question?
I do indeed.
Then go on.
I make my strategy, I save it, and then I deploy it. I get charged about €5, $5 anyway,
Yes.
whatever it is. Okay, then when I go to the saved on the top of the screen, you have the builder, and yeah, that one. You press on that one. If you try, let's say, test one. Okay, can you press on one of the two boxes in Cake USD? Yeah. It says 0 and 7. It hasn't got the settings we put in.
This might not catch up on the front end properly. We have all the data required on our back end. It is saved correct.
So the contract is saved with all the settings and you don't see it here.
Exactly. This might be, I can have a look at it after that, why it's not working on that side. It's indeed maybe something.
It's always like that. It's been that, and I was afraid to deposit because, you know, I saw 0 and everything's like that. So, and the currencies are not shown when you choose some currencies.
Okay. Can you, after this, are you on Telegram or on Discord?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Can you please open a ticket when this call is done, and so I can get in touch with you and we can investigate this together?
Okay, and the other thing, I opened the ticket and you answered, I think, or Sarah or someone, if it's possible to delete some deployed strategies, because when we play around, it gets, you know, I have 6 or 7 and I don't like seeing them there. So if it's possible to just delete them or archive them or something.
Yes, this is what will come in the next, I don't know when this deployment will be due. We have some deployments lined up and some improvements to the UI. Archived, I think, is the way to go here, especially with deployed contracts. Saved strategies, I don't know, or if you want to archive a deployed one at some point. Saved strategies, I think it's safe to delete, and a deployed contract, in my opinion, should only be archived and that you can still restore it because the data is also already on chain. There is no reason to not have it available if you want to have it back for some reason.
Okay, and one last question.
Go on.
It hasn't got to do with the strategies. It's with the Weave tokens.
Yes.
In the previous version, when you hovered on the number of Weave tokens you had, you could see the ones with the milestone bonus. Now you cannot see it anywhere.
Will also be updated. This is in the next bigger UI update. I'll make sure to tag you, and I will also provide an update for Weave users when it got deployed. This is something what we are working on, basically on all different parts. So, but yeah, I feel you that it's right now a little bit harder to track the milestones and how much of the Weave token itself, how rewards get calculated towards it. So in the next UI update, there will be not only like, there won't be the hover, but you will see how it operates, but you will also see the adjusted Weave per day amount and everything adjusted to your milestone bonuses. Basically a little bit more information than there has been on the old one.
Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you. Don't forget, please, to jump in a ticket and open one so we can investigate regarding regarding your saved contract and
yeah, okay.
Look at it. I want to make sure that everything works fine there. Ben, 1 second. Question, would you recommend using BUSD as the initial deposit currency? There is no recommendation what initial currency you should use. Use the currency you have is what I have to say, because there is really no need to have BUSD in particular. We will make sure that the token you provide is swapped into the exact amount needed for farming. If you have a large amount of cake which you want to deposit, feel free to go. Some other stable coin, USDT, if you have a large amount of BNB, whatever you have, this is no problem. There is no limitation to the deposit token and what kind of token you can deposit. BUSD has been just chosen by me because this is what I have in my wallet for showing you, and it was coincidence that I deposited into the USDT BUSD farm. But even if you had cake and would deposit cake in here, we would then swap 50% of cake to USDT, 50% of cake to BUSD, and create a LP pair out of it. So there's really no need to have a specific currency. You can have whatever you like. We take all ERC20 tokens, which you see in your list. And we will, as I said, continue to add more tokens to the whitelist and give you more and more options in the future. One second, Ben, Ben, do you have a question?
Yes, sorry. Thank you for humoring me and for holding a fantastic AMA, by the way. This it's very informative, very clear, it's brilliant. Thank you. And it all looks brilliant, very exciting. So I'm very likely to be a passive user. However, this looks way simpler than I thought it was going to be. So I'm tempted to look into being a pro user. However, my sort of knowledge base as to what LP pools will be good is fairly limited. So I was wondering if you're going to at some point provide some tools within this for us to see what stable coins are, or what how risky some of these LP pools might be, etc. Just some more tools within this for passive users to help build more informed strategies.
This is not only for passive users, but also pro users, and everyone needs information, and you create a strategy based on the amount of information you have. So first of all, which is the ground rule for everything, is do your own research, look into the projects. I mean, the underlying protocols you are using, even a small look over their white paper or a YouTube video, whatever, just get some information to get a feeling for it. But we also want to provide our users more information on risk management and how risky a particular protocol is. And for this, for example, I can already tell you we are in a partnership with an insurance company and crypto insurance. We are pushing that a little bit forward, not only to have an insurance for the strategy you provided. This is, I think, is also a key part for our pro users. But also based on the partnership with them, they already are building a really nice risk management. I don't know the right wording, like a risk algorithm, and they are collecting a lot of data to not have the risk rating being a subjective thing, but fundamentally underlined by heavy data. And our goal is to partner with them, and also we have a great entry point for collecting anonymized data. So I don't know if anyone watched and looked at our page, but we don't track anything. So don't worry that we somehow try to grab your Facebook profile and pinpoint your wallet to it or something like this, or give data to other companies. This is not what we want. But anonymized data, how protocols are used, what happens with them, will greatly help us in the long run, together also in our partnership, and just for us to provide as many handy tools as possible. And yes, this is our goal, to increase the tool set for our pro users and our passive users to make their decisions on hard evidence and not gut feeling.
That's really helpful. On my other, hopefully a very quick question was, one of the previous questions was about deleting strategies. And so I guess my question is, if I was to invest into one of the saved strategies, say, for example, you create a strategy and then I give you some money, and then it's deleted, you delete it, or what happens to, A, is that possible? And B, what happens to my funds?
Yes, it is possible that a pro user deletes a strategy. The farm, the thing is, we don't want to interfere with your money, and we can't interfere with your money, so we can't withdraw it to your wallet. But what we can do is we can notify you that the strategy, some changes has been made to it. For example, the strategy got deleted. Or what's even more interesting might be that if a pro user you are following does not delete his strategy, but rather removes all funds from it, then the strategy is not deleted, but the pro user withdrew everything. There has to be a reason why he done it. So in the first step, we will notify you. And if you don't take any actions, we are still, this is honestly not finalized what exactly the outcome will be, and we need to get in contact with our passive and pro users. What we thought about doing is that after some time, we just remove all the underlying LP tokens, break it up, and basically move everything into the contract. This might not be what users want. So this will be a process where we listen to user feedback and adjust based on what users actually want in that case. But the first and most important step is notifying you. We don't want also just to have a notify on our own webpage, but we also want really old school, where you can put in your email if you want, but also maybe notifying via Discord. There are multiple ways how we can reach out to our users, because we are using multiple things already. So takeaway answer is, we will keep you informed so you can take action, and we will try to mitigate as much as possible and as much we can do for our users, if that's what our users want. Again, this is something we can discuss after this and collect feedback and get a really solid understanding how our users will use our platform. Because quite honestly, the whole concept is new, and this hasn't been done in this way and this customization before. So we need to see how strategies get created, how users interact with our platform, and adjust based on that.
Thanks. So the money wouldn't be lost.
The money would not be lost. No, 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 no. At no point will your contract get deleted or anything. The money will never be lost when a pro user deletes his part.
Great, thank you.
This I can give you as a hard answer. Let me go back to, so Alan Armstrong, and the end where you have made the strategy, will it show the entire RPR of the strategy? Yes, this is what we are currently also working on, and also historic APR. We need some time to calculate the APR when the strategy is running, but this is something which we will see over the next weeks, definitely not only the current APR, but also the historic APR, how your strategy performed over the time of a period of time. And this comes back to the part providing as much information for our users as possible. Whatever you feel like is important for you, if we missed some metric or anything, reach out to us. We will make sure to implement it. And if you need it, others might need it too. We try to give you as much information as possible. I'm catching up with the chat. Chris, how does the performance fee gets calculated with all the compounding, etc.? Would it be a percentage each time yield is taken? Yes. So the fees gets compounded on each time the yield moves to another part. And another part might be the auto compounder. Another part might be moving. The important thing is that we don't. So if yield moves out of here, let's assume you have $10 of yield coming out. We don't take 5% because this goes in one part, 5% because this goes in one part. Yield is taxed once, and we have our contract in a way that we have optimized the gas costs for the transactions and all underlying stuff, and all interaction with the underlying part. So your yield gets only taxed once when moving to the next steps. Any time frame when Fantom, Avalanche, Polygon, or any others that will be added to Weave project, or any others that I didn't mention, like Luna, etc. You can build. I hope this is because, yeah, exactly. Patrick answered that already. Thank you. So Fantom and Polygon is live. We are the first goal is to integrate as many protocols as possible before we move to the next chain. I won't give an ETA when another chain gets added, and this is something I honestly can't provide you right now. And what the next chain will be. First of all, we want to make sure that we stack up on the possibilities you have on the already existing chains. This is priority number one right now. What I can tell you, because what we are building for in the future is also to have a real, give more, how you call this is the first time you may realize I'm not a native English speaker. This is, we want to give more freedom of choice to our users, or to feel that they impact something. This might be the correct phrasing. So it might be that in the future, you actually will vote as Weave stakers on which chain to integrate next, where you want, what do you want to see next, and that you are more in charge on planning going forward where Weave goes. But this will take a little bit of time until we are there. Perfect. Have I missed any question so far? Does anyone have any more questions for us?
Hi, Andreas.
Hey.
Hey, this is Scott here. I have a quick question. I'm pretty interested in the sort of stable coin aspect of things, but I'm still a bit uncertain about the gas fees and the controller fee. Have you put any thought, or do you have any idea about what sort of level of deposit is required in order to sort of sustain the gas fees with, for instance, the example that you've got there at the moment? I believe the controller fee is 1% of yield, isn't it? So is it going to require quite a high deposit in order to cover, even just that sort of first stage of gas fees?
The thing is that you can set up your compounding and have it compounded, for example, every 7 days. I don't know if $100 will be enough to actually have meaningful compounding every 7 days. But this is not the big problem, because if it isn't enough, and if you deposit, let's assume even if 1K isn't enough and you deposited 1K into USDT or something which has USDT BUSD in there as a stable coin pair, for example, if the yield you're getting out of it doesn't cover the gas cost and doesn't reach a threshold on top, which we will also be, we will give you the possibility to adjust that by your own, what you feel the correct threshold is like, or what you want the threshold to be. The interaction won't happen. So if it's not enough yield to get compounded, then this wouldn't be enough yield to get compounded also by yourself, because you would basically do the same interaction as a user, pay gas cost. So it skips for this time. And when next time the amount has been met, then the compound takes place. So the important part is what we're taking care of is just that we don't burn through user funds. And even if the compounding, if you set up compounding on every day, and you are as a pro user and share your strategy, for example, with passive users, and have 1 million BUSD in there, or as a total value, $1 million, then compounding daily might be quite a good shout. Passive users who following you might not have that much inside. So for them, the compounding won't trigger that frequently, just to ensure that there is something to compound and there's something to put on top again onto the farm or move to the next level. That's basically my end thing is, we won't burn your funds mindlessly and that you lose out on something. If compounding has, or moving to the next part, has a real impact, we will do it. If the yield doesn't cover it, we wait until it does.
Okay, so it would wait. So it would wait for the following week or the week after that until there was sufficient funds to cover whatever stage you were at, the gas fees for whatever stage you were at. Is that
exactly
right? Okay.
Exactly. So again, just the underlying from this is we don't compound $1 of yield if we eat 80 cents of compounding. We won't compound 20 cents of yield if the compounding fee is 20 cents or 24. And we can estimate the gas cost quite efficiently on our back end, what the compounding will be for you. So don't worry, this is taken care by design, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Crypto Bull, let's say you started a contract with 1K. Can you add dollar to the same existing contract? Yes, you can. As soon as you add more funds to your contract, it does basically the same process as the first deposit did. It then creates LP for the first entry or the first multiple entries in there. And we will just create more of the LP token, put it into the first farm. So basically what comes out of yield will be greater. So yes, you can fund your contract multiple times. You don't need to have everything in one go. If you decide you want to have more in there, you can add more later on. The tax reporting, yes, I feel your pain. I'm from Germany and we take taxes here quite seriously. So yes, this is something which we have on our mind, because we have everything what is needed, and have a quite nice overview of all the interactions happening. It feels like the right thing to do, to also provide you the information for you to make your tax life easier, because what you tracking everything and all the contract interaction, everything can be a real pain. And I am speaking this part completely out of experience. Tracking crypto taxes is horrible. And we definitely want to make, or at least provide you as much information as possible. And if it's in the beginning, a CSV document with all things lined up, so you have that, at least something you can refer to, then this, but this is something which we have definitely on our mind to make your experience with Weave as smooth as possible, also on the tax side. Is there any further question?
No.
Will there be a way to deposit a wrapped token and at the end have the contract end with a wrapped token for the tax purpose? What do you mean exactly by wrapped token? For me, a wrapped token is BNB, for example, which isn't native to the BNBchain and gets wrapped to put out. Is that what you mean, CryptoBull?
I think I understand his question. So I think the question may be that whether or not you can have the same token in and out of the contract. And the answer is yes, but I just want to confirm that's the question.
Yeah, I think he's asking that in reference to not having to swap around cryptos to create a taxable event during the course of your strategy.
If that's the question, then yes, completely possible. I'm not that familiar with USA taxes and how BUSD in, BUSD out, BTH, yeah, would be possible. Patrick and Chris are definitely the right guys. Well, not to talk about how to do your tax, but when it comes to USA part of the stuff.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice.
Not tax advice.
Also, I missed Chris. Thank you for calling me handsome. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Ah, it wasn't me.
No, the other, there is another Chris, but I still want to say it didn't go unnoticed.
No, it was me.
I think the question is actually a little different. So CryptoBull looks like he's actually asking, is there a way for the token itself or the vault itself to be a token that changes value? And that I can't answer.
I honestly don't understand the question. Patrick, can you explain it to me maybe a little bit better?
Yeah, I don't want to put words in CryptoBull's mouth, but so he says basically the token itself doesn't change in quantity, but the yields that it has accumulated basically, I guess, boost the value of the token itself.
Okay, so
like an interest-bearing token.
Yes, so basically you go in with one iWeave and come out with one iWeave, but what it's correlated to changes in between based on the amount you earned, right? Okay. Right now, unfortunately, this is not possible. You're also asking from a tax perspective, I believe. Might be something worth considering. this is why interaction with you is great and getting feedback is great. Does it make life so much easier? Because, for example, from my German tax perspective, it actually doesn't matter. I get taxed on when I sell and what I get out of it. So when I swap it into, for example, into Eurospec, then my gain gets taxed. So if this is something which is relevant for other users and might benefit them on the tax side, we might consider it in the future. Let me write that down.
I think the real answer, though, is no matter what you do at this moment, that you're probably creating a taxable event for yourself in the United States, because there's been no precedent set for any of these activities to become law. So you're just kind of, you're on your own of how you decide that you want to track it or write it down for your taxes.
Okay.
I agree with Chris, but also not financial advice.
Okay, this is something I believe which we will have more AMA scriptable coming, and there will be opportunities for you to reach out to us, and we definitely can discuss that further. We are definitely in favor of keeping in touch with our community as much as possible and get your feedback. As I said, we are building everything for you. And so it is important to stay in touch with you. How can we track the performance of our own deployed strategies and those of third-party published strategies? This is what I'm talking about, providing historical data and the historical performances, I think what you are asking for, Scott. So how did a strategy performed over a period of time, gains, losses when looking over a nice graph? This is something what we are also working on. Basically comes hand in hand with giving you more information. We are continuously building and will provide more and more information and more not pre-compiled information, but basically something which is easy to understand. So definitely historic tracking of performance of strategies is really high on our to-do list. Go on, Jeff.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, using that same example that I'm seeing on the screen where you deposited 100 BUSD. All right, so once that money is there, I'm guessing it's already running the strategy. But all right, I'm seeing the withdraw button, the withdraw at the bottom right. So once you press that, what exactly happens? Like, what exactly are you getting back? Because I'm guessing the money is going to be in all of those boxes.
Yes. So currently the withdraw button is for getting out basically what gets out here in the contract.
Okay.
And
yeah.
what the rewards. So the withdraw button is for getting this part out of the contract. What we need to add is the basically liquidate all, or however you want to call it. So you also liquidate your farms and get everything out of it. This is UI adjustment. Everything is in a contract and everything is working fine in there on that part, but we need to add that to the UI. And also having a nicer overview what tokens got into the contract, so you see the exact value of the tokens, and you don't need to guess or check by your own, but basically having a nicer overview on that part. I'm fully with you. This is something what not on our to-do list, but what we are actually already working on.
Perfect, and thank you for clarifying that in this AMA. I'm sure you're gonna have more AMAs, because this is with this AMA. I'm seeing that it's very simple, and yeah, I think I'm speaking from a point of view from someone that actually planning on being a passive user. I'm actually seeing that I can potentially be a pro user. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for saying that. Yes, if this is our goal. So even though we say pro users, I just want to make sure that nothing what we do is a financial advice. Everyone is saying, all YouTubers, I bet you're following, or if they are legal financial advisors, then they don't need to say it. But what's important for us is providing you information to make solid choices, but still in the meantime, making everything simple. So I think we are quite good on the part simplifying the process. It just needs more information. I bet we can make it even simpler. We can improve on the UI. This whole thing and Weave as a whole will be an ongoing process. I don't think that even in the next 5 years, there will be a point where I am willing to say this is finished. I think in this really quick moving space, there is no time to lay back on. There are so many things coming out. There are so many opportunities, and we just touch the surface. There's so much more to come. When I said also the cross-chain strategies, this will be a game changer for having people, everything in the same place, and don't even need to worry about to go to different chains, bridging stuff on your own. This will make life, again, so much easier, and we will easify, if you want to call it that, going further and further and further. And we have some plans for a long, long road already. I've seen that 2 more want to ask a question. Jeff, you raised, was that everything?
Yeah, that was everything. Thank you.
Okay. Zacharias, is that just the old?
No, new question.
Go on.
First of all, I didn't say congratulations for all the work you all did, because I'm in since the beginning of December, when everything started, and it's moving quite nice. Anyway, I like Jeff's question, and I'd like to ask this. If in your example we see at the screen now, we did withdraw, what would we get? Night liquidity pool with BSUP?
No, you would get Night. Yes, you would get Night token. This is why I'm saying right now it only shows TVL and the amount in USD dollar value. We need to show you in a cleaner way how much tokens are in the contract and what kind of token is in the contract.
Yes, but if can you press withdraw now? You don't get the option for Night.
Yes, because there is no Night in the contract yet.
So yeah, so if it produces in a week or two,
exactly, then there will be the option for Night. And
okay,
this is still a little bit wrong, because it also shows basically the tokens I interacted with. So the Night isn't there yet because it didn't got produced, and it isn't in a contract. The contract hasn't recognized it yet. And still, as I said, we need to have in a nice way showing you how much Night tokens are in the contract. And so, and also just an easy max button. So you can just withdraw everything, and you are good to go. Basically, more information is what is coming down.
Thanks.
Andreas.
Good night.
And thank you very much.
Quick question on that, Andreas.
Yes.
So if you wanted to make sure that what your option to withdraw was already set to, you could actually add say to wrapped BNB night, you could add it so that it would end up in BUSD. So you would always end up with BUSD as your end token in that contract then, and just withdraw BUSD at that point, correct?
You mean if we create a swap entry?
Yeah, at the end of it, if you had the swap entry, so everything would be just swapped to BUSD at the end of it, you would just be able to withdraw BUSD at the end, correct?
Exactly, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point for, and I would say ask your tax advisor if you can put BUSD in, make a strategy, and at the end of the day, it comes back out in BUSD. If that would be sufficient enough to have an easy, an easier time with how you report it.
Yeah, and on the accounting side, yep.
Correct. Yes.
I think this comes, I don't want to touch this in detail, but it really comes down to your region and how things getting treated. I think that if you're looking for an advice from the community, this is what it is. It's an advice from the community. You should double check and make sure that everything is correct, and also that it's correct for your specific region, and that things don't get messed up in between. For example, for me, it's the best way what I can do in Germany is hold a coin, because as crazy as it sounds, for us Germans, if we held a coin for 1 year, the gains from it are tax-free, which is insanely nice.
Yes. Too bad we couldn't deploy this into a Roth crypto account.
Yeah.
One day.
One day.
That should be on the roadmap then.
If there are any questions, any more questions, keep them coming.
I think the biggest question is for new users is really understanding the different pools that we're able to choose from,
yeah,
and the risks that come with those. As somebody was talking about earlier, how do you go about choosing which pools to put your money into because of the chance of impermanent loss, etc.
Yes, this is something.
Juicy yields don't always mean a positive thing in the end. Sometimes.
Yes. I think a lot of people get burned in the beginning, and our goal is to prevent that. If your high APR is great, but not sustainable. And this is, I think, what a lot of new users have to learn. And this was the same for me. I really had to learn that crazy high APR doesn't mean, or even APY, that you will get it over a whole year. I learned it the hard way, and I want to prevent newly users coming in from doing the same learning but burning their funds in the meantime, and losing money because they are learning. Our goal is still, we take the DeFi for the masses quite seriously, and we want to bring in more people. If you talk to people who are not familiar with crypto, it's always this question, yeah, I heard of Bitcoin, but have you heard of stable coins farming and all what you can do also with crypto, besides just investing into Bitcoin and holding it? There are so many more opportunities, and we really need to make the entry point as painless as possible and take users by the hand, the first users, and make it a really, really nice interaction. And when people who are not as technical don't have a bad experience as in the first time they interact with the protocol, I think we can bring a lot of people into this whole ecosystem. Ian, can a pro user edit a published strategy that passive users are following, and what happened to the passive side when they do? Yes, pro users can edit a published strategy, but only on the compounding part, the frequency part, basically what I call fine tuning. This is what a pro user can do. And passive users will get notified about the change, that there has been some changes done. Hopefully the pro user will also explain in a quick comment why he has done it. But most of the time there is a reason why a pro user would adjust his strategy and not doing it random. And if there is a good reason and passive users started following the pro user because they believe that what he's doing is a good thing and they believe in his strategy, then this kind of changes should also reflect on the passive side. But as I said, there won't be possibilities for changing farms in between completely or modifying the strategy to a complete new degree. So if for some reason a whale has bought, there is a really new farm and a whale has bought all the liquidity in there and is changing his strategy then to only this specific farm, and all the new users coming in are basically feeding just into his pocket, and he wants to capitalize on a large followership. This won't happening.
To what extent, Andreas, are the strategies locked though? So if you were to just make one slight change, would that just require a full rebuild and publish of your strategy?
If you would like to swap in between, so let's create a new one. And let's say...
But for instance, if that one you had previously was running and you just wanted to add another
farm,
anything, any interaction,
wouldn't be possible in the current state.
Mm-hmm. But you can change how often you compound.
You can change how often you compound.
So that piece of information will be stored separate from the smart contract then?
Yes, this piece of information is stored on our backend and is taken care by our backend. Also, for example, we try to put as much information as possible into the contract, and when, for example, fees gets taken, how much fees got taken will be represented on the smart contract and will be set. So in the future, users can track that everything is going the correct way and can track the on-chain data. But the compounding amounts and frequency and everything is done on our backend. And this is something you can adjust because we take care of it on our backend. And we thought that this part might not be a good idea to limit a user that they need to create a completely new strategy or update, or even do, if they want to update 4 different parts, that they need to do 4 different transactions and interact with the contract. Because our backend is already the thing which takes care of everything, it fits, or it seems the best fit to also have the information there.
Cool, thanks.
Anything more? Don't be shy. If you have a question, okay. If there are no more questions left, then I just needed to say thank you very much so far for everyone following us along. I say it quite often, but I also mean it every time. I really appreciate our community. And this is by far one of the nicest crypto community I had the pleasure to interact with. And it's a pleasure to build for you guys. and getting your feedback. As again, if you have anything on your mind, feel free to reach out anytime. If you have suggestions, feedback, ideas, we greatly appreciate everything you provide us. And thank you very much, you all, for joining us. And I'm looking forward for the next AMA and the next time we will meet.
Nice. Thanks, Andreas. Great job.
Thank you very much. Then the only thing needed to say is thank you very much all for joining. Have a great evening, day, wherever you are, whatever your time zone is in. And thank you all for coming and freeing up your time and listening to me.
Our pleasure.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.